But now we have to discuss England announcing their preliminary squad for Euros. Um, Look, this is a very this is not a narrow squad that Gareth Southgate announced. We've seen with the Euro preliminary or the Copa America preliminary squads, this essentially been the teams that they're gonna take to the Euros with a extra guy in here and there, maybe one or two cuts. But this is a legit preliminary roster. When you look at the fact that 33 players are in the squad, this gives there's gonna be like a lot of players cut in, about 7, maybe even 8 players cut in. He's bringing in, he gave call-ups to guys like Eberechi Eze, Margehi, and Kobe Mainu, but no spot for Marcus Rashford or Jordan Henderson. And then he includes players like Curtis Jones, Gerald Kwanzaa, Jared Branthwaite, Adam Wharton, and James Trafford, Burnley's goalkeeper, with this a new expanded group or so. And then some of the guys that we're expecting to be really essential for the squad, like a Cole Palmer, Anthony Gordon, a Jack Grealish. Well, no, not Jack Grealish, but the obvious ones like Harry Kane, all that, they're in there. Jack Grealish is also in the squad. Luke Shaw is their only natural left back. That's a big question. That's their only natural left back, and it's not like he's been lighting up the road this season. He's been injured a lot. He's been very injured this season. So there's things to discuss. With the squad, there's some holes in there. There's some very strength in there. There's some strength in there, but there are some holes as well. Jude Bellingham, it's weird. He was listed as a forward in the squad. Interesting. So has James Maddison, Phil Foden, Cole Palmer, Eberechi Eze. Trent Alexander-Arnold is in with the midfielders, and it's an interesting squad. Now left back is gonna be his biggest concern. Gareth Southgate, the only natural left back, it has been Luke Shaw, but he's been in and out all season. In fact, he's barely played all season. Not even in now. He hasn't played all season. Gareth Southgate said a few months ago that Luke Shaw is one of the best left backs in world football. Frankly, I completely disagree with that. But if he is going to regain fitness, he's the obvious first choice at left back just by default. Kieran Trippier in the high important crucial games, he's really been the main guy for left back unnaturally for England, and he'll probably be the backup left back now, but he also gives you an ability to play right back. He's been very, very dependable for Gareth Southgate. I think the left back is a big concern for them. Just the fact that their one natural left back that they have in the squad is someone that hasn't played all season. Marcus Rashford not being in the squad. Now look, if you want to base this off like what he's done over the past few years, I guess you could say it's surprising. But let's be honest, based on this year, he's been horrible. And there's been much better players than him just based on performance this season. And that's worthy of the call-up more. And if you look at Marcus Rashford, the way that he's performed heading into the into international tournaments kind of determined the way how his summer tournaments go. When you look at last year, his performances in England led to a good World Cup. Before that, when he had a bad season with England, with Manchester United before Euro 2021, it ended up, he ended up having a bad European Championship, and bringing him in this team, you already got guys that just are playing much better than him. Anthony Gordon can do a lot of what he does, but he's on good form, and he's been very, very good this season. And Gareth Southgate just came out right away and said Other players are playing better than him at the moment, so that's why he's not in. And at the end of the day, that is the facts. Southgate did state regarding his selections, I'd have loved it to be cleaner or more definitive, but that's not the position we are in. He talked about how injury issues were obvious, but others were more, nuanced. And, how the camp goes in these few weeks, how the friendly goes, make it more simplified. But he said himself that this is as complicated a group as I can remember picking. Eric Dyer, he's not in the squad at all, even though guys like Lewis Dunk and Jarrell Kwanzaa is there, despite how he's been performing at Bayern at the top level in Champions League semifinals and quarterfinals, all that. The way he's been performing, he's not going to be in the squad. He will probably be very, very sad and not with the disappointed with the thing. And I think he's a guy that gave you a little bit of flexibility. Even though he hasn't played there in a while, he is an option in midfield, even though you have much better players than him there. But when you're looking at it, at that role, at that number 6 position, you had, in the last years, you had, Declan Rice and you had Calvin Phillips. He had options there, but it's a little bit weaker now, You have Declan Rice there with Bellingham and all that, and then next to them, what do you really have? You have a Conor Gallagher maybe. You might play Trent. It's just, Eric Dyer. He gave you that sort of option, so I'm a little surprised about that. Jordan Henderson, I'm surprised about that. Gareth Southgate finally leaves out his favorites. I don't necessarily know. I thought he could give you experience, but he said, Southgate himself said the determining factor was the injury he picked up the last camp. He missed 5 weeks and wasn't able to get back up to the level of intensity. It was a difficult decision. He will be a miss. He's an exceptional individual and fantastic human being. He's been in that leadership role for a long time. But this team does have a lot of attacking talent. You have to say, there's a lot of talent in this team, with the guys like Harry Kane, Ollie Watkins, who's had a brilliant season for Aston Villa, Phil Foden, Cole Palmer, who's had a brilliant season. They have a lot of attacking talent. Ivan Toney was able to get into this preliminary squad ahead of Dominic Solanke, which surprised some people. But, we have to realize the performance, the levels of Ivan Toney since coming after the ban, what hasn't been the best, but you got to remember what he's able to do over the longevity of his Premier League career. Ever since he got promoted, he's been a brilliant, brilliant player. He's more of a target man, but has pace too, can run in behind. I think that's the right choice, in my opinion. Solanke has a little bit of a ceiling. Despite his form, I feel like Ivan Toney just gives you a little bit more. But yeah, I think the main takeaways of this is, Marcus Rashford not being there, and the fact that you only take one natural left back. I think maybe you could, in this preliminary squad, you could bring in a guy like Ben Chilwell to give you some sort of option. Maybe he's able to rediscover form through these friendlies, through the preparation. I'm able to see if he is healthy, if he can get back firing what he was like at fully healthy. He can give you a backup option for Luke Shaw at left back, but it's not the best position for Gareth Southgate to be in, with only having one natural left back. And even, if you want to go with a Kieran Trippier at left back, he's not having a good season either for Newcastle. He's been very, very poor this season, Kieran Trippier. He's been struggling, not only going forward, but defending one-on-one. He hasn't been the best defender, and he's kind of been the experienced guy that they've trusted at that left-back position in the big games throughout the season and throughout the last few tournaments. So, So yeah, that's also interesting aspect to this. Um, but now, now we really get to see, now with this preliminary squad coming out, it's kind of, some of the guys that are here, it's kind of obvious they're not going to make the squad. There's a few obvious cuts. Like, we know James Trafford, he's not going to get in there. So, guys like Gerald Quenza, Jared Branthwaite, Curtis Jones, Adam Wharton. We know those guys, they're not going to be in the squad. But the rest of them, it's going to be interesting who he decides and who he's going to keep and take to the Euros, and who's also going to head home with them.